that you have chosen to join us for the Rainbow Push live broadcast. We're live on the Impact Network. We're live on iHeartMedia. We're live on WVON 1690 Radio. We are the People's Station. We thank all of our viewers from our satellite cities in Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia, Detroit, Michigan, Silicon Valley, New York. And then we thank all of our viewers from all over the world for watching us each and every Saturday. Reverend Jackson is watching us. He is on the trail to get the vote out. He's in Texas, and all you Texans, you're going to hear from Reverend Jackson of this weekend. We thank all of you. This is our international broadcast. We thank students all over the country who are registering, who are voting early. We thank all of you. We thank the students who are joining us today. We are the Rainbow Push Coalition. We want you to connect with us, get social with us, friend us on Facebook. You can always tweet Reverend Jackson. He's tweeting all day, every day. We want you to join us, be a part of us. Text JLJ77 to 41444. Those of you who have cell phones. Those of you who are shopping on Amazon, go to Amazon Smile. Make a gift as you shop to Push Excel. If you want to be a member, we are looking to get our membership rolls up. There are 40,000 of you out there who need to either renew or join. Make sure your family is a member of the Rainbow Push Coalition. You can call us right now. 773-256-2775. If you don't want to call us, go to rainbowpush.org. You can push membership. You can push donate. If you're already a member, just donate a membership for somebody else. This broadcast today is dedicated to our own founding member, Mrs. Annette Rainwater, and you'll hear more about her, one of the most outstanding servants. Just an ordinary woman that did extraordinary things for our organization, and so we're praying for her family as she made her transition this past week. Her services will be in Detroit, Michigan. On Wednesday, she is the godmother of our own Judge Greg Mathis. We're also praying for the Glover family. That is Ramonsky Love's sister. His nephew was one of the young men killed on the expressway. So we're praying for our own beloved Ramonsky Love and his family. And then we're praying for those who received those mail bombs. Representative Maxine Waters, one of the few African-American women who continues to stand for justice, standing up for us. And Joe Biden and Robert De Niro, the Clintons, the Obamas, Senator Kamala Harris, and Senator Cory Booker. We are praying for all of them, and we thank God that the police and all of the officials have been able to arrest and detain the purported bomber, and we hope that justice is swift as it is in other cases in his case. And today, we want you to join us immediately following the broadcast. If you're in the Chicago area, there'll be a special housing conference sponsored by the Illinois Housing Development Authority. They will be here from 1 to 3. If you want to buy a house, if you want to renovate a house, if you want to acquire a property, if you want to help renovate and be one of those Section 3 business owners, you need to be here today to get more information. And now, Reverend Jackson is really pushing this GOTV, get out the vote, hashtag I vote, hashtag voting matters, all votes matter. And here's a video to help encourage you to vote.
The change in America occurred because somebody thought that they could make a difference. The changes did not come from Wall Street, or the White House, or the Congress, the courts. They always started by some young person who thought that they could in fact make a difference. Rosa Parks got on a bus one day. The sign above the driver's head read, "The colored seat from the rear, white seat from the front. Violators will be punished by law." She refused to go to the back of the bus.
Yes, she did.
And she was arrested. Dr. King went to her rescue, a 26-year-old student, and told her, "Better let you walk in dignity than ride in shame. One person can make a difference." In 1957, 9 students at Little Rock Central High in Arkansas went to school one day led by the Army. They refused to bow. They made a difference. In the next few years, young America died that we might live. Medgar Evers was killed in cold blood about this right to vote. Sorna Goodman and chained 2 Jews and an African American were bulldozed to death with their eyes wide open in Philadelphia, Mississippi about this right to vote. Jimmy Lee Jackson's 15-year-old African American student shot and killed in Marion, Alabama about this right to vote. 4 darling little girls blown up in the church in Birmingham, Alabama one Sunday morning, all about the right to vote. They made a difference.
Made a difference. Yes, yes.
You must make a difference. Whenever students are sober and sane and sensitive and put hope in their brains and not dope in their veins, they can always make a difference.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
Because they died, your generation has the power. Today, high school seniors should come across that stage with a diploma in one hand and a voter card in the other, because they can make a difference. College students must vote. You have the power. You must not have the attitude. It's not my aptitude, but my attitude that determines my altitude or how high I will go. My mind is a pearl. I can learn anything in the world. Just because it rains, I don't have to drown. I may have been born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. I can rise above my circumstance. Hands that once picked cotton can now pick presidents. Let's vote about it. Let's vote about it.
Welcome back. Once you hear Reverend Jackson and you listen to the history, there's no reason why all of us are not turning out to vote at 100%. Most of us in midterm elections are voting at 30%. And so we're saying to parents, students, wherever you are, you can change the course of history in this election, and you need to vote about it. If you're confused about your registration, go to vote.org and find out if you're registered and where you should be voting. If you don't want to go online, you just dial 1-800-OUR-VOTE, and you can get information about your polling place, your registration status, all of that. If you're an ex-felon and you want to be restored to the polls, then you should go to restoreyourvote.org, and you can find out if your state is like Illinois, where you can register once you've served your time and you'll be eligible to vote. There are some programs that we have coming up in the next 2 months. Detroit Automotive is this coming week, November 1st and 2nd, and we're looking at the automotive industry. We will release our report card on the Detroit Automotive this week. In D.C., our telecom, looking at Comcast and Verizon and AT&T, how they are diverse in terms of employment and in supplier diversity, December 4th and 5th. And then we want all of you. Election day, we have Election Central at the national headquarters of PUSH, 930 East 50th Street. We're going to have a watch party. We're going to have to watch this election and make sure that our work is beneficial. We're going to be watching to see what happens in Georgia, watching to see what happens in Mississippi. We're going to be watching what happens in Florida. We're going to be watching what happens in Illinois. If you want to watch with us, first work with us, meet Betty Magnus in Chicago at 930 East 50th Street at 6 a.m. We're going to be going to help people go to the polls. Pastors, churches, if you want to get a bus, you have one more Sunday after tomorrow. We will help you take souls to the polls. Call us right now if you want to take groups from your congregation after service. We will take them to the closest early voting polling place in Chicago, Cook County, and return them back to the church after they have voted. I want to say happy birthday to our National Field Director, the Reverend Cassius Rudolph. Young people, some of you are looking for funding for college. Toyota Financial Service, making life easier. That scholarship is available. You have to apply by November 13th. Go online to Toyota, to scholarship.org, Toyota Financial. Go to scholarship.org, Toyota Financial. And then remember to register in person for the upcoming Christmas food baskets that we will give away to families every Saturday, 3 Saturdays in December. You can start registering in person on Monday. The only thing we ask that you present is a voter registration card to apply for a food basket. Early voting, vote early so that you won't be concerned about weather or other conditions. And now this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, why many women are wearing pink today and marching for cures and treatment for breast cancer. We have a young lady, Ms. Donna Lynn Schaefer. She is a community outreach navigator for the Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force. She's going to make a brief announcement of what you and I can do as we look at this health crisis. And if you have some questions, meet us at PUSH today. Immediately following the broadcast, we have a health fair.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Donna Lynn Schaefer, and I'm from the Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force. The Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force has free mammograms for any ladies who do not have any health insurance. Ladies, research shows that breast cancer is 99% survivable. Breast cancer is no longer a death sentence, but we have to do our due diligence in knowing our bodies, getting our clinical breast examinations, as well as getting our mammograms. So if you are in the Metropolitan Chicago area and need to get a mammogram, please give us a call as we can help you get a free mammogram screening. We have free mammogram screenings at Breast Cancer Center of Excellence, such as Rush, Russell Park, Christ, Mercy, Swedish Covenant, Alexian Brothers, St. Alexian. So there's no excuse not to get a mammogram. It hurt only for about 15 minutes. 15 minutes of your life can save your life. So again, there's no reason for anyone to go without a breast cancer screening. So I wanted to tell you about our program called Beyond October. We have a program at the task force called Beyond October. Our program got started because we realized that everybody is all pinked up. Everybody's giving out free mammograms in the month of October, but then what happens on November 1st? There's a different color, there's a different cancer. Well, we want everybody to know that breast cancer happens 365 days a year. And so we have free mammograms 365 days a year. So if you need to get a mammogram, we have our information on site here at Operation Push today at the luncheon from 11:30 to 1. And you can come here today and sign up for a free mammogram, or you can give us a call at 312-942-3368. Now, very quickly, I want to tell you about our very exciting program called Beyond October. Beyond October 2018 is a health and wellness resource fair that we hold every year at IIT Herman Hall, 3241 South Federal. On November 10th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., you can come join us for free everything that day. We have free food, free raffles throughout the day. Our grand prize is a 50-inch television. We have, of course, you can sign up for mammograms. We have manicures, facials, massages. We have a men's corner, a children's corner. So everybody is welcome. It's a family-friendly event. Beyond October 2018, November 10th at IIT from 10 to 2. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Beyond October. And now beyond October, there is November 6th, and we want you to make sure that you are registered and that you are voting. We have a number of issues that young students in colleges across the nation, particularly young African American males, are facing in this environment of Me Too. And sometimes the Me Too is really, they make precipitous decisions without affording the athletes due process. And so to talk about a case and cases that are happening around the country, we have our own Bishop Tavis Grant, the senior pastor of Greater First Baptist Church in East Chicago, Indiana, to come and give us that information.
Let's give it up for Attorney Jeanette Wilson. Clap your hands for her. and our living legend, Reverend Dr. Jesse Louis Jackson. Come on, Chicago. You know, all across America, there's a wave of injustice that is impacting African-American student leaders in universities and colleges where they are being falsely accused of sexual assault. Now, make no mistake about it, sexual assault is serious and it's an injurious act, and it should be adjudicated at the highest level with standards of justice held high for both the accused and the accuser. The American justice system has this principle that you are innocent until proven guilty. We have a case now in Madison, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin, where a young student athlete who is in the top 5% of student athletes academically, nationally, his name is Quintez Cephas. He's under a suspension from playing football, but he deserves his day in court. Anybody here believes in justice? Clap your hands if you believe in his day in court. We're asking the university to cease and desist in their investigation because these universities rush to judgment in adjudicating oftentimes in cases where these young people do not have a proper legal defense. They don't have the proper means to represent themselves. Their Miranda rights are waived. And likewise, they don't get an opportunity to be restored or get any recovery once they're exonerated. And so we're asking, and I want to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson for standing beside the Cephas family and the students who are supporting him by asking the university to play by the same rules. Somebody say, play by the same rules. Say it loud. Say, play by the same rules. Say, Wisconsin, play by the same rules. They use Title IX as a means to rush to judgment, and these young people don't get their day in court. And so we're asking the chancellor and we're asking the Title IX coordinator and the committee to allow Quintez to have his day in court. Interestingly enough, a case at the University of St. Mary's in Bridgeport, Connecticut, two young African-American student athletes had their scholarships pulled and lost their eligibility on false charges. Breonte Dunn at the Ohio State University just last Friday lost his eligibility, lost his scholarship on false charges. We believe that universities need to play by the same rules, and if you're a young person, call Rainbow Push today. If you're a student athlete and you need legal representation and you need advocacy, call Rainbow Push, because this is the house of justice. This is Dr. King's workshop, and the work of Jesse Louis Jackson is still not done. There's a young lady by the name of Camilla Burris whose daughter lost her eligibility because she moved her child out of a school in Milwaukee because of an open racist teacher, and that child can't play ball. Last but not least, this presumption of guilt is so pervasive, Jonathan, it's like a cancer. I met a young student at Shorewood School in Milwaukee, young, smart, bright African-American kid who said in a public meeting, I hold my head down every day because I know that I'm a black male and I know that I'll be accused of something. This has got to stop, and it's got to stop now, and we want them to play by the same rules. Call Rainbow Push today. The push is on. Clap your hands.
And this is why we have to change the NCAA rules and guidelines for these universities dealing with athletes. Too many young black males in particular are facing expulsion, loss of scholarship, and removal from a career that they have trained a lifetime for. And so even as a woman, when I think about Me Too, there has to be balance and there has to be justice. And we can't just do like the woman who accused Emmett Till. Y'all remember that story. And then 30-some years after his death, she said, I lied. So we don't want it to be too late. We have with us our friend, my friend, retired Judge Bernetta Bush is going to talk to all of us about the importance of voting for judges. Because some of us get to the judicial part of the ballot and we just freeze. Welcome, Judge Bush, as she comes.
Good morning, Push. As the preceding speakers have spoke, including Reverend Jackson, voting is extremely important. You must get out to vote. Now this year, I want to focus on your responsibility to vote for judges. Everybody that has spoken this morning generally has talked about the problem with the presumption of guilt, the problem that you have when you go into the courtroom, the problems that you face when you're in court. The important thing is that judges make those decisions, and you have the power to determine who remains and sits on the bench. This year, in Cook County, when you look at your ballot, you're going to have a list of judges called retention judges. What does that mean? That means that these judges have been on the bench. If they're in the appellate court, they have been there at least 10 years. And if they're in the circuit court, they've been there at least 6 years. So you have a plausible record that you can look at to make a determination if you want these judges to remain on the bench. You have a responsibility as a voter to say, I don't want this judge anymore, or I want this judge because this judge has been fair. You have the power to make that decision. So, what kind of judges are we talking about, and why does this affect you directly? You are going to see a judge, or someone in your family is going to see a judge at some point in their life. And you need to know that those people are sitting there because you put them there. And those people remain there because you failed to vote positively or negatively for them based upon their record. These judges sit in courts that affect us every day. They sit in traffic. They sit in domestic relations. They sit in criminal court. They sit in housing court. They sit in the county division where we deal with mental health issues, where we deal with tax issues, where we deal with adoptions. They sit in domestic violence courts where we deal with issues of domestic violence. And of course, they sit in criminal court and the law division where we deal with personal injury kinds of cases. You need to know who these judges are. You need to know who you are returning to the bench year after year. You need to know if these judges are representing your interests. And you do that by looking at their record. They have a clear record. They stand on their record. You should hold them accountable for what they do as it relates to you and your community. These judges sit in Markham, they sit in Maywood, they sit down in Cook County, they sit in the criminal court buildings, they sit in every county in the Cook County. They sit in every area in Cook County. There is a judge there. You need to know who these people are and who you are returning to the bench. It's not just enough to say, I don't feel I'm getting justice. You have a right to hold the people responsible who make those determinations. Now, most of the judges are fair. I would say a great proportion of them are fair and equitable. They apply the law. They keep themselves informed on the law, and they are concerned about the impact that it has on the community. But there are some who don't. You need to know who those judges are. Now, I just went and did early voting day before yesterday. The ballot is long, but you need to take the time to go to the end of the ballot, find the retention judges, and make an informed decision as to whether or not you want these people to sit another 6 years. If they have done and served the community appropriately, you should vote yes. If they have not, you should vote no. The balance is that each judge, in order to stay on the bench, is required to get 60% yes votes. That means that 40% of the people need to say no. If there is somebody that you've had an experience with, or if you've heard information based upon the information that has been provided about their records, you need to find that out and you need to vote accordingly. There is an organization that has put out a very informative list of the judges and what their records are. It's called injusticewatch.org. You can go to www.injusticewatch.org and get a list of all of the retention judges and the comments that have been made about them. Now, when I voted, I utilized the information that was provided on Reverend Jackson's personal list. If you want to know how to get that list, you can see me after the broadcast. Thank you very much. Remember, you must vote. Remember, the power is with you, and you, the people, have the power. Thank you.
And that's by order of court. And I want to welcome Spring Arbor University. They have 3 classes here today. Every college should take a Saturday and visit us. Thank you, Spring Arbor. I hope you are gaining new and important information, and we're so glad to have you with us on this Saturday. They come every year, at least 3 or 4 times a year. I thank the professor. He's always with them, and then Jonathan and I get to speak with the students each year. This is what education is all about. It is not just in the classroom. It must also take students to the community where they will end up working and serving. So thank you, Spring Arbor University. Well, many of you have heard about this idea of a consent decree in Chicago relative to how we do policing. You have, many of you watched the Van Dyke trial, criminal trial, the police officer that shot and killed Laquan McDonald with 16 shots. I have one of them, I think he's one of the most brilliant attorneys in America, and he's been on this for a number of years. Mr. Attorney Craig Futterman is going to come and share about the consent decree, what it means, and where it is working in the country.
Good morning. I want to take you all back, at least for me, or take myself back about 3 years. It's my wife's birthday. Not today, about in November, 3 years ago, a little bit before Thanksgiving. And I'm driving back home from court. And I'm driving home just after another Cook County judge had ruled we just won what turned out to be a really historic argument that led to the release of the video of, judge ordered the release of the video of the execution of Laquan McDonald. So as I get home, collapse on the couch next to my wife. And you'd think that we've been fighting now for months and months for the release of this truth. I'd never seen it. I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen it either. And you think that I feel gratified and I feel happy. But I can't lie, I didn't. I collapsed next to my wife and I found myself in tears. Someone just mentioned taking us back to the Emmett Till moment, or Mamie Till moment. What was about to be released was the execution of a 17-year-old child. And as long and hard as we fought for the truth, nothing's going to change that. And he has a mother, a sister, a family. And this video, as we all know, has now been seen millions and millions of times around the world. Over the next few days, Chicago became the leading national story. And young black folks used to that video of that police officer, Jason Van Dyke, pumping those 16 shots into the body of a 17-year-old boy while he lay bleeding helpless in the street, contributed to a national, not just local, but a national awakening to the reality of the systemic police abuse in black and brown communities, not just in Chicago, but around the entire nation. Not just that, the code of silence that protects it. I mean, at the same time, people around the world and people around the city were horrified by Laquan McDonald's murder, and it is a murder. Folks had to grapple also with the reality of a system that operated to deny to deny the abuse the most vulnerable among us. So, I mean, it's extraordinary, and it truly was. I don't want to say that it wasn't. Extraordinary as this execution was. One thing that wasn't extraordinary, and even the most casual observer to what happened and all that flowed couldn't help but notice, was just how normal it was for everybody in the department, up and down the entire chain of command, to circle the wagons after an officer is accused of serious abuse. Suddenly, the life of a 17-year-old boy mattered a lot less than protecting a fellow officer. Every officer knew exactly what they were supposed to do. You lie. And if you challenge this story, you get crushed. So we pull back that curtain to the everyday operation of the machinery denial in Chicago. That's the real waking, and that's young black folks then standing up, as everyone knows, 16 shots and a cover-up. Protests engulfed the Magnificent Mile, Black Friday, biggest shopping day of the year, Reverend Jackson's out. And something changed. I remember the reactions, and I'm watching the nightly news later after the protest, and a lot of these store owners and the managers who own these boutiques who had just lost millions, remember, millions of dollars, busiest shopping day of the year on account of these protests. And I heard something different this time. I don't want to say everyone said this, but I did hear something different, and it wasn't just Mr. Mayor, get those kids off the street, arrest them. It was, Mr. Mayor, you got to do something about the reason why the kids are on the street. As my youngest daughter said then, she said, Daddy, we woke. We're conscious. We broke through. People actually gave a care. And our city leaders just couldn't put it back in the box. Oh, no, so. It was this that brought and Push and others. We petitioned and we had been petitioning for years the Department of Justice to come to Chicago. And finally, and it was only because, and we got to remember, it was only because people at the ground stood up, spoke out. That's what brought the DOJ to Chicago. And they conducted what turned out to be the largest investigation, civil rights investigation of a police department in their entire history, and found what everyone here knew, a reality in which black folks abused, 10 times more likely to be abused, 3 times less likely to be believed, and documented these pattern and practice decades long that we've known about of civil rights violations dating back years, ongoing to the present day, targeted predominantly against black, brown, and those who have the least. Reverend Wilson, I'm going to just jump. I wanted to talk more about the consent decree, but I know I have a little bit of time, just a little short bit of time, so I just want to get to one punch about this. There's some folks fighting hard on the other side. People talk about the dark side. The reality is we should be talking about the white side. You're talking about the Fraternal Order of Police. You're talking about Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III. You talk about Donald Trump, who going out of their way to come to Chicago to say, after the Department of Justice, the same justice found ongoing civil rights violations of black folks, now not just we're not going to do a darn thing about it and abdicate our responsibility to enforce the Constitution of the United States of America, but not only that, we're going to fight it. We are going to do everything possible to keep any remedies when it comes to police abusing black folks here in Chicago, because Sessions said, you just got to let police keep on doing this. Let the police be the police. We got to go back to the days of old when America was great. So there's a fight, and there's a real fight. One of the things that we won, because then we brought this historic suit with people in the community to actually challenge and do what Trump and Sessions didn't have the heart to do, and that was to enforce these rights, to try to bring about some change. We brought the Illinois Attorney General along at the end of the day, and she did something that was historic too, but one thing that she didn't do was fully include the community in the process. But we did fight, and here's one of the things we won, and I'm going to cut it right now. We won the right and the power. There's a consent decree that's being looked at right now. There's a lot of important things in that decree, and there's some things that are missing. We can talk about what's missing on another occasion. We got to fight for what's missing, including the right to have access to the information we need to enforce the decree, but we have the power. We've won the power, and this is the first time in the United States of America this has happened, for the community to enforce this consent decree in federal court, and we're talking about doing that for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And that means that we need to follow the lesson of those young folks who stood up, spoke out, stay vigilant, stay focused, because that right to enforce it means nothing if we don't do our job. I thank you for your time.
Takes a long time to go through the consent decree, so we're not going to do that today. I know you're waiting to hear our keynote speaker. It's in the context of voter suppression that Jonathan Luther Jackson will stand. It's in the context of white supremacy that Jonathan will have to stand and speak at this hour. Texas is pushing voter ID laws, and 3 southern states, Florida, Tennessee, and Kentucky, have said that in some issues, African Americans can't vote. In North Dakota, they are challenging Native Americans, those that were here before the Mayflower. They have to show an ID, and they don't have a street address. The post office box doesn't exist. I mean, it's crazy. But I don't care how hard they try. We're going to vote about it. We're going to turn out in great numbers. We're going to rev it up. And now Jonathan is going to tell you how much this climate has changed under the president. So the next speaking voice you will hear will be none other than our national spokesperson, Mr. Jonathan Luther Jackson.
Good morning, evening, friends. This is your friendly announcer. I have serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. Their love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours and right away. Hate's going round, breaking many hearts. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far. Love's in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away. Don't you know that hate's going round, breaking many hearts, breaking them down. Stop it, please, before it's gone too far.
Thank you, Brother Maurice Mahan, and I'd like to say a very special thank you to all of those that have extended get well wishes and prayers for my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, as I stand here in his rightful place. Today, he is in Texas campaigning en route to Georgia and on to Florida. The man has freedom all in his bones, and the least that we can do is to get out and vote. As we speak right now, the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh is under a lockdown. We believe there were multiple casualties. There was a shooting going on there. It's a very conservative Jewish congregation in a historic part of Philadelphia. We pray for them as well this moment. The words to the song that Mr. Stephen Morris had created on Love is in Need of Love today, I want to share with you my thoughts today on words matter. Words matter. I was talking with my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, this morning, and he said to me, he says, son, you know, when you spit in the wind, it can come back into your face. When you spit in the wind, it can come back into your face. Words matter. And we're living in a time now where some prominent TV journalists don't think that having a blackface caricature is something negative and offensive. Here we are in the year of our Lord 2018, in the new millennium, and racism has found its way into the new millennium. We have Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, Netflix, Hulu. We've got Facebook, FaceTime, all these new technologies. And something as old as racism has found its way into the new millennium. So I thank all of you that have come to be with us today and present, because you are standing in the tradition of the greatest of Americans. You have sacrificed your time. You have come to a house of worship, a house of freedom fighters. You could have done so many other things, but in the end of the day, there are so few that do so much for so many, and you're on the right side of history. And for those that don't know what blackface is, even if you make $69 million, even if you eat bagels and you have your crumpets and tea, and if you go to the Four Seasons in Park Hyatt, if you go to LA Fitness, Export, or to the Peninsula Spa, you can have all 32 teeth. You can have them capped, shined, cleaned. But if you don't understand what racism is, you can have Aveda hair products in your hair. You can have the finest of luxury items on you. You can shop at Hermes or wherever you want to go. But there's a putrid stench to racism that you need to understand. When you see the characterization of African Americans, where this imagery was depicted in the 1830s on plantations here in America, where African Americans were depicted as lazy, as cowardice, as hypersexualized, as unintelligent. And pretty soon it became a minstrel show where Caucasians had put chalk on their face to show blacks as being subhuman. And then what happens? It became so popular, it became a song and a dance in theaters and acts. And then you had a dance called Jump Jim Crow. Jim Crow, Jim Crow, jump Jim Crow. It became a song. We can see that in our scriptures. When we see that Lucifer came through, delivered the poison of the devil through the music. Words matter. And now we see that the spirit and the laws of Jim Crow came into existence after the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment, when we abolished slavery in the 13th Amendment. We fought for equal protection under the law in the 14th Amendment. We fought for, in the 15th Amendment, the right to vote. Look at it the other way. Those were also known as the slave amendments because they were breaking the backbone of slavery. But when you erode the 15th Amendment, take away from your right to vote, when you start engaging in voter suppression, when people can no longer serve on juries, when persons have now been discounted and discontinued and have had their citizenship invalidated and counterfeited, when you can no longer vote because of some crime after you've gone to jail, after you spent time in restitution repaying society. Why should someone that goes to jail come out and not be restored to their full American citizenship? You paid your dues to society. What else do you want? And don't we all need a second chance? Some sinners are known by their name and others aren't. But the Lord tells us that we're all sinners in his eyesight. Then the 14th Amendment, equal protection. Well, if you cannot sit on juries because you don't have the right to vote and the voter registration rolls determines who gets on the jury, now you don't have equal protection to go before a jury of your peers. What does that do? That moves you back to the 13th Amendment, where we say that you are free from slavery except unless you've been duly convicted by law. Well, if you don't have the right to vote, you've not been given the opportunity to get on the jury, you've not been given equal protection of the law, and now you see that you get put in jail. You cannot even give your kidney to your brother, your sister, your mother for a transplant because you become the property of the Department of Corrections in every state in America. When the words you use, we've seen our president say he's a nationalist. Well, there's something to being a nationalist. When the Scottish do not want to be a part of the UK, they want to have their own independence. That's nationalism. When the United States no longer wants to be a colony of Great Britain, that's nationalism. When the Haitians don't want to be part of the French Empire, that's nationalism. But what is the president really saying? He's talking about white nationalism. Let's call it for what it is. And he's reverting back to a playbook from the 1950s and 60s, and even going back to the 1830s, when he says, I'm a nationalist, and says to the crowd in front of him, that reporter that got slammed by an elected official, that's a good man, and the reporter deserved it. What is he tapping into? He's tapping into a minstrel song, the same one that Megyn Kelly was talking about, the same one that she loved, where he said that these people are ignorant and lazy and don't deserve the same rights that you have. What is he really saying when he says, I am a nationalist? When Heather Heyer in Charlottesville, Virginia was killed, and he says those persons that came out in tiki torches and were marching and were saying about white pride and white nationalists and we're the Pride Boys and had no sympathy for Heather Heyer, that's racism. You can see it on whatever network you want, with all 32 teeth smiling and glistening under the best lighting, but the putrid stench and foul odor of the decay of the human spirit cannot be negotiated. I remember my father telling me as a child, he says, Jonathan, words matter. Words matter. He says in the Bible, God spoke the world into existence. We in part are a product of God by the words that we use. Words can heal. Words can help. Words can direct. Words can destroy. Words can have a caustic feeling. Words can beat someone's head down. But then when you talk about those that can become in political office and those that become soothsayers with their tongue, the state of Illinois, for example, was not a slave state. But the Senator Stevens said that the state of Illinois has involuntary servitude. That's nothing but slavery all dressed up. You can't choose to be free, but you are enslaved, but it was your involuntary servitude to the state. All dressed up, kind, coy words. And I thank God that we're alive today. I wouldn't want to be alive at any other time in history. You've got the technology, you've got the means, you've got the resources, and there's a generation now that's coming up, that's standing up, and they're not going back, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump will be out of office, but God's world will still remain. Words. Because of words, we understand the spirit of a man. When the president says the babies in cages is okay. When his wife has on a jacket that says, I don't care. Simple words. Words matter. When he applauds, when he says, I'm going to send troops to the border for those that are refugees. Words matter. We understand when our scriptures teach us to be peaceful as a dove and wise as a serpent. A serpent does not appear to have ears, but they've realized that a serpent has skin over its ears. The blues songs would tell you that every head that's turned doesn't mean it's not listening. And every eye that's closed doesn't mean that it's not asleep. The words is how a snake can smell the sense of danger and prey. The words, we have to be very clear on what the president is doing. His words, they matter. But then we have to ask, why are we so concerned now? Why are we so concerned now? This is the same mister that we have seen that said that the 5 young African-American boys in Central Park needed to be executed. He's the same man. So then when he says, grab women however you want, what is he doing when the president says that? You can already anticipate that violence towards women shall increase. He said it. He can't take it back. He's unapologetic. And then all the way to current day, where you see a young man down in South Florida that's able to say and comprehend and get all the vibrations that comes out of his larynx and the words that he has spewed and has spit into existence. It has touched his soul, where the former lawyer of the young man Caesar in Florida says he feels as if Trump was a father to him. That's his spiritual godfather. He wanted to honor him. He wanted to obey him. He put crosshairs on the face of Van Jones, of Nancy Pelosi, of Maxine Waters, of Hillary and Bill Clinton, of Barack and Michelle Obama. Somebody has to be held responsible for this. I was cooking the other day trying to prepare my thoughts, and as I was carving out the fish, I began to realize that I'd had it in the refrigerator for 2 days, and now was the time that I needed to marinate it and soak it and get ready to prepare it. As I listened to Johnny Taylor in the background and got my fish together, I was reminded why I had to cook that fish immediately. Because after 3 days, a fish starts stinking in the head. We've got something that's stinking in the head in Washington, D.C. No sense in being focused on all the water at the bottom of the river. If the water is being contaminated and it smells bad, sometimes you've got to go further up the creek, and you may see a big hog sitting in the creek to make all the rest of the water taste bad. Mr. President, we beseech you on behalf of honest and decent and God-fearing and loving people, tone down your rhetoric. I know some people say, I don't see who I want on the ticket. I'm not going to vote at all. Well, there are 3 parts to this. One, you can try to get people to vote for you. And if you can't do that, you try to get people to vote against your opponent. Or the third part, you try to engage in voter suppression to tell people don't come out at all. Ladies and gentlemen, the only F that we cannot afford to have is the F of forfeiture, the F of quitting. We must go out and vote. You heard the Honorable Craig Futterman, you heard the Honorable Judge Bernetta Bush. Voting matters, and it's just not for the presidency. The United States senators can stop or abolish or protect the Affordable Care Act. Senators are on the ticket. The governors in every state, they can determine who's going to be their Speaker of the House and begin to set the boundaries for who's going to be the next representations in the State House. The judges and the governors matter. In order to us to have Laquan McDonald to have a jury of his peers, rest his soul in heaven, judges and those that are the jurists matter. You've got to vote. And it may not be for who you want. You're not going to necessarily find, young people, the one person that fulfills all of your desires. I see some of these dating apps, and people say, this is the color hair I want. These are the eyes I want. This is the height I want. This is the education I want. I want. They put all these things in the app. You know the tragedy of that is that these same people that do that are still alone. You ain't gonna find nothing that got everything just the way that you want it. 2 million people have come out to do early voting in Texas. Just like dating, you gotta make the choices with the options that you have. You may want a bodybuilder. Well, if you want a bodybuilder and somebody that's physically fit, you may want to start going to the gym and stop. Oh, let me get back to my point. Somebody telling me they want somebody that's a bodybuilder. You sitting over here eating an extra large, XL. Words matter. And I want to thank our FBI. I want to thank our persons in government. We will continue to pray for them. And I thank God for the technology that we have in the Homeland Security and these great law enforcement officials. I mean, the fingerprint that they found, that they traced back to a cell tower, that they could then locate going to a hardware store to find this person in a parking lot that didn't even have an address. The fingerprint that they could find when they told Miss Maxine Waters she was on the list. Miss Waters, don't get her confused as the congresswoman from California. Miss Waters is the congressperson that lives in California that's from St. Louis. She said, bring it on. I'm not afraid. They found a fingerprint that they could trace back to a cell tower that they could find from the shipping transfer station at the United States Postal Service in Florida that they in turn could find back to the hardware store where he made the pipe bomb onto his vehicle, and now they can show you the rallies he was attending on behalf of the president. Where do I want to end with this? Words matter. We've got great law enforcement officials. Now what do I want? I want those same law enforcement officials to kumbaya, come by here. We've got 86% of the murders in the city of Chicago that are unsolved. You can do it. We've had a weekend of 74 people shot, no one arrested. We've got the technology, but it's hard to find somebody that you're not looking for. We need to solve this crime in our community. Come on, you all. We've got the technology. We're just missing the will. We've got the technology to trace that bomb. Let's find these murderers that are killing our children. We've got the technology to understand when a child has a speech impediment. We've got the technology to rid the nation of breast cancer. We've got the technology. God help us restore our will.
As I look back over my life,
this offering time. Did you enjoy Jonathan? Give him a hand. Now, oftentimes when we get to the offering, especially when we have an audience of students, you feel some kind of way like I don't know if I can give. This is for you. We want students across the nation to become a part of this growing movement for change. And if you believe in social justice, if you believe that America can be better, if you believe that everybody should have the right to vote, if you believe in justice for all people, if you believe in justice for the Native Americans and those who were here before any of our ancestors landed on Plymouth Rock or came under the rock through the slave ships to get here, we want you to become a student member. It's $15 a year. Reverend Jackson has a goal. He has challenged us to increase our memberships. By the end of this year, 40,000 new members to push. And so for those of you who are watching and you want to join right now, just call us, 773-256-2775. Now, some of you say, I don't have $15, I don't have $35 right now, but you can give according to how you, what you have. So you can give us $5. Go to, take out your cell phones. Oh, y'all, take out your cell phones. I know you have cell phones. Take out your cell phones. Watch me now. Take out your cell phones. Hold it up. Students, take out your cell phones. All right. Text JLJ77 to 41444. Text to JLJ77. Text JLJ77 to 41444. That way you don't have to write anything, because I know young people don't like writing. You got the cell phones. Old people that are like me, get your cell phone out too, like Omar. This will work wherever you are. Now, those of you, text whatever and give whatever you can give. Every gift matters. It's not equal gifts, it's equal sacrifice. Now, those of you say, I don't want to do that new type giving, I'm going to give the old kind of way. Write your checks to Rainbow Push. Write your checks to Rainbow Push. Some of you say, well, I don't want to write a check. I'm not texting. I want to swipe. We got swipes right over here. She's holding it up. We're into technology now. Those of you watching, you say, I can't swipe because I'm watching you and listening to you. Call us, 773-256-2775. Some of you got fresh money. You still with the cash program. Those of you with cash, come on, stand. Say, I got cash, I got checks, stand. Thank you, Oscar Bernardo. He's a pastor. He's writing checks every time he comes on. See, this is my friend here. That's why he's on the front row. If you sit on the front row, there's Geraldine Lambert gives faithfully. Almost 50 years of giving. Sits in the same spot, quiet spirit, quiet fire. We're coming down your street because Miss Garnell taught me how to do an offering. She said, you got to go down to whosoever will, give what you can. Benny Payne, thank you. All right, anyone that has something to give, would you stand and go to the aisle closest to where you're seated? If you're to my left, your right, go to that aisle. My right, your left, go to that aisle. Those of you who are watching us on television, still time, 773-256-2775. 773-256-2775. John Mitchell is up there answering the phone. He wants to hear from you. And then if you don't want to talk to anybody, go to rainbowpush.org. You can give rainbowpush.org, go to donate, or go to membership. Omar, don't talk to her unless you borrow money. I'm so glad the choir's here. They're going to sing some giving music. These young people have, some of them have grown up in this choir. One young man that just sang, I've Got a Testimony. He plays, he sings, he does everything. If we could get him here every week, we'd love it. Where did he go? There he is, right there, stand up. Sing something while we are getting this offering. I have to get the money because Reverend Jackson's out of town, and he's going to call Jonathan and say, how did it go? And we don't want Jonathan to get in trouble with his father. I could take the whooping, but I don't want Jonathan to get a whooping. So while they sing, I want you to give. Thank you, Benny, because I know you're helping us out. Every business that Black Pay, he used to do the Black Business Directory. You need to come back with that digital. We need you. You giving? There you go, write your name on the paper. Anybody need a pen? Won't you stand and give? Come down, wherever you are, give. Come on.
Exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you ask or think, according to the power that worketh in you. God is able to do just what he said he would do, and he's gonna fulfill every promise to you. So don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. He's able. Come on, put your hands together like this. Come on, say God is able to do. God is able to just what he said. And he's gonna fulfill every promise. So don't give up on God, 'cause he won't. Say he's able. Come on, everybody, clap your hands. And we sing, oh, oh, he's able, you say. Oh, oh, he's able. We sing, oh, oh, he's able, you say. Oh, everybody shout, say, he's able. He's able. He's able. He's able. He's able. He's able to do whatever you need him to do. Said he's able. He's able. I tried. Oh, shout yeah. He's able. Won't he heal you? Won't he bless you? Shout yeah. Up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. Say, don't give up on God, 'cause he won't give up on you. Don't give up on God. He won't give up on you. He's able.
As we stand and prepare to leave, Sister Catherine, if you could lead the students to the chapel. Mr. Jackson, would you speak with them today? Okay. Students, would you stand? We thank you for your presence. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord grant you success in all that you do, particularly those of you who are in college. We ask that you have safe travels back to your campus and that you are provided with safety while there, and that you might return to your family safe and secure, and that you will be transformed by the messages you